Hi, this is Videsh Ray, and I'm a rising sophomore in high school. Um, and yeah, that's just me. Okay, so today is going to just be a video about a beginner topic in competitive programming, simulation problems. So simulation problems are just problems that require you to simulate events in your solution while you're coming up, like while you're getting the answer. So yeah, while you're getting your solution, like in your algorithm, just simulate events, and that's why they're called simulation problems. And so this is a like example problem, like a pretty basic simulation problem. So it's from the USACO 2019 January contest in the bronze division. Yeah, so the problem is basically that uh Bessie and her friend are playing a game they saw. So to start the game, Bessie puts three shells on a table, and she puts a pebble under one of the shells. Um, then she swaps so Bessie starts swapping the shells, and Elsie has to guess the location of the pebble. So Elsie has to guess which shell the pebble is under. Now, the normal version that they both saw, um, let the players see the initial location of the pebble. So like which shell that it was originally under, and then it made them guess the final location after all the swaps were done. But the cows are trying to play a different version. Bessie and Elsie are trying to play a different version where Elsie doesn't know where the pebble originally is starting, and she can guess where the pebble is after each swap that happens. Now Bessie knows where it actually is and gives Elsie a score based on the number of correct guesses she made, like at the very end of the thing. So we have to determine the highest possible score that Elsie could get. Okay, so first we know that there's three shells and one pebble. Um, and yeah, so first, let's go through the input format, I guess. So first you get an integer n, which tells you the number of swaps. So here we see that the first line is an integer, which is 3, and then there's 3 lines following that. So this 3 is the number of swaps, n, and then you'll get 3 integers in each of the n lines following that. So A, B, and G in that order. Um, so you're going to basically how it works is you're going to swap shells A and B, and then Elsie is guessing that the pebble is under shell G. Yeah, so yeah, the shells A and B are swapped by Bessie, and Elsie guessed shell G after the swap was done. Okay, so we have our three shells, right? We have three shells, and then we have pebble under one of the shells. Okay, so now how it works is that all we do is we just brute force this, where we just simulate all of these swaps and guesses. So let me number the shells. Just shell 1, shell 2, shell 3. Okay, and now what happens is, let's say the original position for the pebble is that Bestie placed it under shell 1. So now what happens is that when we go through these swaps and guesses, and we're simulating this, right? So first we see that 1 and 2, shells 1 and 2 are being swapped, so the pebble that was under shell 1 is swapped into shell 2. So now the pebble under shell 1 goes to shell 2. Okay. And now Elsie guesses that the pebble is under shell 1. Now this is incorrect because we saw that the pebble just moved from shell 1 to shell 2. So we don't get any points from that. Elsie doesn't get any points. Okay, now in the next step we see that 3 and 2 swap. So since 2 has that pebble, it goes to shell 3 now. Elsie once again guesses that the pebble is under shell 1, which is again not true, so no points there. And then finally here we see shell 1 and 3 are swapped. So now the pebble that was under shell 3 goes under shell 1. And now Elsie again guesses that the pebble is under shell 1. This time this is true, so you get 1 point. And that would be Bessie's like final score for if the starting location for the pebble was under shell 1. Okay. Now, how this problem, like our solution is going to work, is that since we don't know the original starting location of the pebble, we just have to try every single starting location. So we just tried the starting location of 1, and that gave us like 1 point, right? That was our score. Now we have to try the starting location under shell 2. So if it starts at shell 2, then that means that here shells 1 and 2 swap. So then the shell that was under shell 2, the pebble that was under shell 2 goes to shell 1 now. And then Elsie guessed that it's under shell 1, so she gets a point for that. Now 3 and 2 swap, that doesn't do anything because they don't have any pebbles. Then Elsie guesses shell 1 again, so she gets another point. Now 1 and 3 swap, so the pebble under shell 1 now goes to shell 3 because they just swapped. And now shell 3 has the pebble. Elsie again guesses that it's under shell 1, and this time it's not true, so she doesn't get a point. And now you'll see that like we have two points that we earned from that. Um, so you'll just record this as well. You'll say that the starting position um of the pebble under shell 2, that starting position gave us 2 points. So you'll save that. And so far you'll note that the maximum is 2 points out of all the starting positions. Now we'll try the starting position being shell 3. So now our starting position is shell 3, and we'll simulate the swaps again. So 1 and 2 swap, since they don't have anything under them, that doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. And then Elsie guesses that the pebble is under shell 1. That's not true, so no points. 3 and 2 swap, so now um, the pebble from shell 3 goes to shell 2. Elsie again guesses that the pebble is under shell 1, so no points again, because that's not true. Now 1 and 3 swap, which doesn't really do anything because they don't have any pebbles. Elsie once again guesses that the pebble is under shell 1, which is again not true, so Elsie ends up getting 0 points. So what's happened so far is that when we had the starting position for the pebble as like under shell 1, that gave us 1 point. When we made the starting location shell 2, we got 2 points. When we made the starting location 3, we got 0 points. And since we want the maximum possible score that Elsie could have earned, this 2 is going to be our answer. That matches with the sample input here. And yeah, so all this problem is that you first take the input of the number of swaps and guesses that are happening. Then you have to try every single shell as the starting location. There's only 3 shells. So for each of those 3 shells, like you'll try shell 1 as the starting position, shell 2 is the starting position, and shell 3 is the starting position. And for each of those starting positions, you simulate all of the swaps and guesses and see how many points Elsie is earning. And after that, you just like choose the maximum number of points that Elsie could have earned from a certain starting location, and that's your answer. And that's all it is. And so that was pretty simple, and um, and it's a simulation problem because you're just simulating the like events that are happening in the problem. So the problem, like the events in this problem was like a game, right? The swaps and guesses, and we were simulating that and figuring out our answer based on that. That's it. Yeah. and I'll make some videos in the future on simulation problems, um, and just some explanations on some more simulation problems, like some harder ones too. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.